Happy Wednesday and welcome into Palmetto Sports Daily. Caroline here, joined by Jill and Kevin. And guys, we are inching closer and closer to our first live football action of the NFL season. It's coming up tomorrow night. It's on Thursday, and it's the team that we all pay attention to, the Carolina Panthers, taking on the Arizona Cardinals in the Hall of Fame game up in Canton, Ohio. Should just be a really fun outing because, obviously football is back, and we've all been waiting for this. We're at the time of the summer where we're all itching to have football be on the television, but also really cool moment coming up where Luke Kuechly, a Panthers legend, is going into the Hall of Fame, so he will be honored on Saturday as part of the induction ceremony, but of course he'll be up there all weekend long. He's very close to the team when they're here in Charlotte, so it'll be kind of a cool moment. I asked one of the Panthers players, Haynes King, their third-string quarterback, the rookie, if he'd met Luke Kuechly yesterday when I was out at camp, and he said no, but he's really excited because his picture is all over the building, and he knows he comes up there and spends a lot of time with the guys as well. And speaking of the quarterbacks, we're not going to see Bryce Young play tomorrow because there are no starters who are going to be in this game playing. Dave Canales said that there might be a couple, though, just because there is some competition going on at various positions, but highly unlikely that anybody who the Panthers expect to be a starter is going to play. So that means that number 12 you're seeing there on your screen right now, Kenny Pickett, he gets the nod as the starting quarterback. He's going to go out and play a couple series, and then Haynes King, the undrafted rookie out of Georgia Tech that I just mentioned, he's going to get the rest of the reps, which is probably going to be the most reps that Haynes is going to get over the course of the preseason, with the Panthers having this extra preseason game in there this season. It's their fourth preseason game in addition to the other three that all NFL teams go through. So both of those guys, Kenny Pickett and Haynes King, talked a little bit about how they're feeling ahead of, getting these reps in. It's Kenny's first season with the Panthers, and it's also Haynes' first time playing in live action NFL game like that, whether there are starters out there or not. So here's what both of the guys had to say about their comfortability and then just also getting out there and getting some action in.
It's going pretty well. I think, we did a really good job of installing everything in spring. So we kind of saw everything for the first time in spring, got a chance to study over summer, and now we're going back through it again. So it's our third time through it. I think that really helped me.
Just try to make the most of my opportunity. And also, I'm very lucky of being a part of QB room like this. A lot of vets and just learning from them, and not even half the time is just soaking in what they're saying and talking about it. And it's like just trying to get on their level and learning just about the game, whether it's the operation aspect, the reads, just anything like that, just the small little details of what they know that, I don't know yet or I haven't been through yet.
Now, I will say, one thing I appreciate about Haynes King and the limited amount of time that we've been able to hear from him on the podium since the Panthers picked him up at the beginning of the summer is he's just honest. He's just himself, and he's got great answers to questions like that and great insight as well. But just on the field, I feel like it's fairly obvious that Kenny Pickett's going to end up being the number 2 behind Bryce Young when we get towards the rest of the season. But it's a big opportunity for Haynes in terms of making the 53-man roster. So, Kevin, how big is this opportunity for both Kenny and Haynes to kind of prove what they've got and solidify their spots on the roster?
Well, I think it's definitely bigger for Haynes. I think we kind of know where Pickett is at this point of his career. We know what he's going to be. He is probably at best a solid number 2 backup quarterback for a franchise going forward. Haynes, and you mentioned the honesty he showed on the podium over the course of the last couple of days. Something he said that I really liked was that, even if he doesn't make this 53-man roster in Carolina, this game is something he's going to use for tape going forward and kind of a tryout for every other team around the league, just to show that, he's capable of playing in this league and making an impact maybe as a backup quarterback somewhere along the way. I feel like, though, this is something we kind of talked about a little bit last year at this time as well. I don't know that I like that they're not playing any starters in this Hall of Fame game. I know it's the first thing, and, there's no need to rush guys into it, but, this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs, and this isn't the Eagles, a team that have, come in with Super Bowl aspirations every year who can just sit their top players. I understand if you want to sit Bryce Young. I understand if you want to sit Ted McMillan. But there's other guys I'd like to see get in there. Monroe Freeling, for one, he's the first-round pick here from the Low Country. He's a guy who's going to the opposite side of the offensive line. I wouldn't mind, Jill, seeing him getting a few reps tomorrow.
I agree that it would be nice, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here just to be annoying. They have dealt with so many injuries so early in camp already. Is it really worth the risk of hurting someone who potentially is going to be one of your starters. And on that note, this is a great opportunity for those who aren't starters to show, if their name's called, if they get hit with another injury once again, that they can show up and perform in a real-time game. So this is a massive opportunity for anyone who's not going to be a starter, because like we've seen over the past couple of days, it feels like an injury is rolling out one after the other. It's very common for all NFL teams at the beginning of the season. However, this is a big game to show that you have what it takes if your name and number is called, if the time comes.
Yeah, Jill, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say, is that maybe it is a strategy for not having anybody else get injured to kind of give some of those guys an opportunity. And also, because of all of these injuries, be like, hey, what kind of depth are we working with here in the event that we have more guys who end up getting hurt? I mean, just real quick, Xavier Legette yesterday was carted off the field with what appeared to be an injury. He's fine. He cleared concussion protocol, but it was just a collective like at practice, because he's the fourth player who's been carted off since the Panthers have started training camp, which is just crazy numbers. So I think you'll maybe see some more of those starters like Monroe, Freeling, and the guys that need to knock some of the rust off and get that NFL experience in a preseason setting, kind of maybe get some more reps towards the end of the preseason. Again, they get an extra game with this one, so maybe it doesn't hurt to give some of those guys that are farther down the depth chart an opportunity to go out there and prove what they can. So I guess we'll see as the preseason continues, but we are going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily for right now. We will be back with you guys in just a few minutes.
Palmetto Sports Daily. Football season is just around the corner, which means it's the start of fall camp for a lot of these programs. And that's the same for Coastal Carolina. It's the first fall camp day, so just helmets, no pads, under head coach Ryan Beard, coming from Missouri State, taking over the program back in December. And it was a good first outing for the Chants, I have to say. A lot of energy, a lot of hype around what this program is going to be bringing. There were a lot of questions around the QB room right now. There isn't a clear-cut answer. The coaching staff said they're mixing all of these quarterbacks in with the 1, 2s, and 3s, because it shouldn't matter who is the voice behind the ball, behind the snap. You should be able to perform your job either way. That was a big point of emphasis. Another big point of emphasis was these are 50 newcomers, so there's only a couple of returners on this roster. So getting all of these players acclimated and creating a team culture fast was a big point of emphasis, and it's something that Ryan Beard talked a lot about after practice today.
But the fastest team that can come together will be the most successful, especially early in the season. It has happened now. Now, fortunately for us, we are fully aware of that. When you bring in over 50 new guys, that's why we put such an emphasis on it in the spring and then summer. We worked really, really hard at that throughout the summer. We did cultural development meetings. We had a bunch of cookouts together. We spent time together, because the only way to really get to know someone is to spend time with them, understand what makes them tick, understand kind of who does what the best, who's funny. I know that sounds ridiculous to you, but, think about your family. Everyone has their roles, and to be able to cultivate that before you get into camp is important. So I'm excited about where we're at. I think we have some really good cohesiveness moving forward, and now during camp is the chance to galvanize that.
Yeah, now during camp is especially the time to do it. One of the other questions that I did ask was, how are these upperclassmen quarterbacks really taking on that leadership role for the 2 true freshmen? And one thing that Beard noted is that just because they didn't play at Coastal Carolina, they are still giving them the wisdom of a quarterback that has played in college before. And he's really stressing that because, like he mentioned, like I mentioned, this is a very new group. So they're all just trying to mesh together and do it as fast as possible, because culture really does drive a program, and we're seeing that in very early stages, and it's something that a lot of the players emphasize as well, and this group seems very, very hungry.
Yeah, Jill, I mean, I heard you say like 50 newcomers or something like that. I mean, that's just the ridiculous number, but really cool that, some of the guys, the very few handful of returners are trying to, kind of string those guys along, which you love to see that. And Wofford football has a similar situation. They actually, as their mascot is the Terriers, they call it the Dog Council, and it's like their, senior leadership that helps guys kind of get worked in. And I spoke to a couple guys at SoCon Media Day last week about that and just the importance of that, and they said that that's been a big deal for their team as well, as has been rolling momentum over from the way that they finished last season. So Wofford started the year 0-5, which, when you play 12 games a season, not really looking great. But then they won 6 of their final 7 games, which they were just trending in the right direction. And somewhere along the way, their quarterback, Ethan Drum, who started the season, he was in a spot where he couldn't go anymore, had an injury, and then they bring in JT Fayard, who is a senior going into this season, and he helped the team to that, 6 of 7 games winning to close out the season. And right now, both those guys are in a battle for starting quarterback. So kind of interesting where Ethan had the job, then JT took the job, and then now both of them are competing for the job this season. But all of that is a positive. Head coach Sean Watson told us he likes to see competition go on, and he also thinks that in light of last season, the team's kind of taken that, and they're in a good spot as they go through fall camp right now.
We rallied around each other, and we really found a great chemistry. And we've got guys who have experienced what we went through. They know what we're talking about, and they can pull a young guy aside and say, hey, man, tighten up. That's not it. This is what we do.
So Wofford rounded out the year 6-6 last season, which is not the standard they want to be at, but something to say for head coach Sean Watson. He's steadily increased wins in every single season. He's going into his 4th season as head coach. So the Terriers have improved every year that he's been at the helm. They're looking to improve on that 6-6 record from this year, Kevin. But I know we've got more news as always going on at South Carolina as well. What's up with Gamecocks?
Yeah, the 2 big schools in the state still getting ready to kick off practice later this week. Clemson, it's going to be on Thursday, and for South Carolina, it's going to be on Friday. And one of the big questions for the Gamecocks is on the defense, and it's pass rusher Dylan Stewart, who's still recovering from an injury that he suffered towards the end of last season. Still a lot expected of him coming into this year. Made the watch list for the Nagurski Trophy yesterday, as did Clemson's Sammy Brown. But Shane Beamer got a chance to talk about Dylan Stewart earlier this week and mentioned how he's coming along and where he's at in his recovery as the Gamecocks get ready to kick off the season in just a few weeks.
Yeah, just, making sure that he knows that we're never going to do anything with him before or that he's ready. And that's any player, meaning from a physical standpoint. Yeah, we all want him back out there quickly, but he won't be until, the doctors say he's good to go and he feels great about it. And that's going back to last season, too. He wasn't 100% healthy, to say the least, during last season. But the conversations that I had with his mom and him and people close to him throughout the season, they realized that then. So I think just the trust factor that he has with us, that goes a long way for sure, because it's very real. Understanding that we're going to rest, and that's the best thing for you to then allow you, when you are cleared to get back out there, be an even better version of the Dylan Stewart that we all saw when he came on the scene in 2024.
Hopefully we get a little more clarity on Stewart's situation coming up tomorrow when the Gamecocks hold their media day. And as I said, they kick off practice on Friday. But we hit the next kind of milestone in the preseason yesterday with the release of the first coaches poll, top 25 of the preseason. That came out yesterday. Clemson ranks in at number 23. South Carolina didn't get ranked, but they had the 31st most votes of every team in the country. So, guys, I'm going to toss it out to you. We'll start with you, Jill. Any surprises from the top 25 you saw that was released yesterday?
Not necessarily. I'm not necessarily surprised Clemson landed within the top 25, but just considering how last season turned out, I think all Tigers fans should be happy with the fact that they landed within the top 25. So I'm happy that Ohio State landed where they did. Other than that, nothing really jumped out at me being I don't think that's where they should be.
I mean, I think that Clemson at 23 was a little bit of a surprise to me, just because I feel like the national perspective of Clemson has shifted a little bit, with the way things ended last season, and then they lose in the Pinstripe Bowl, and it just like now that with the quarterback conversation, them not going out and getting some shiny transfer, bringing him in, I just feel like the national viewpoint on Clemson is like, oh, this team is not what it was in its golden age of 2017 through 2019, whenever. So the 23 kind of surprised me. I mean, as being a station that covers them, I'm glad to see it, because it's always great when our teams are doing well that we cover to go out and be able to experience in that. So that makes me excited for them. But the 23 surprised me a little bit, Kevin. But reverse Uno card on you. Who surprised you the most in the top 25?
No, I was surprised by that as well, especially the way they finished last year, not having a returning quarterback, at least not the guy who started most of their games last year. So that did surprise me. But conspiracy theory me wants to think, maybe now it's because that opening week matchup against LSU, now that's a top 25 matchup.
Yeah.
And now you can say it's 23rd ranked Clemson against 13th ranked LSU when ESPN's College Game Day is there for that season opener just a few weeks from now. We're going to be back with more here on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up right after this.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We're going to start talking about the craziness that's going on in the NCAA, which appears to be never-ending in this landscape that we're in college athletics right now. So just to give you a short and condensed version of what's currently going on that has affected a couple guys that played for Clemson men's basketball this past season. The NCAA is involved in all these lawsuits that are all over the country of all kinds of different players that are going to state courts trying to appeal to get another year of eligibility back and go back to college. So the latest one is that a U.S. district judge in the state of Colorado in Denver basically passed an injunction that allows players who graduated from high school in the year of 2022, who exhausted their 4 years of eligibility this past season, to come back and play a fifth year this year, which technically coincides with the NCAA's new 5-for-5 rule that they're trying to get immediately passed, that gives players 5 years to play 5 years, basically. And it's also their new eligibility model to kind of regulate a lot of what's going on, eliminate all these seventh-year players that we had after the COVID year, and just all of that craziness. So it's kind of exploded into a thing now where the NCAA has, come back and said that it's not ethical that this judge was able to do that. They've appealed it. There's just all kinds of stuff going on now. There's being ghost transfers, that these players who have transferred and are part of this new reinstated eligibility are being called, and the NCAA is saying that teams, head coaches who play these players in the upcoming season are going to be suspended for 50% of the season, and schools are going to be fined. So all that's to say, 2 Clemson men's basketball players from last season have benefited from that court ruling. So R.J. Godfrey, who played his first 2 years at Clemson, transferred to Georgia, then transferred back to Clemson. He is now committed to the University of Arizona after thinking he was going to be done with college hoops. He entered his name into the transfer portal before the window closed in April, and now he's allegedly committed to Arizona. Whether that will hold up and he'll be able to play, I'm not sure. Guard Dylan Hunter also has entered the transfer portal. He is not on a team as of right now, but guys, just your immediate reaction, because that sounded absurd coming out loud even when I was explaining it, but trying to read stuff about it, it also is absurd. So Kevin, what is going on? Basically, what is happening? I mean, this is just crazy, right?
I mean, it's a disaster, and we've got these guys from the class of 2022 getting an extra year. So what's going to stop guys from the class of 2021 who have been out of the game for a year or two,
right,
saying, hey, I didn't get a fifth year. Why can't I come back and play one more year? And this is just going to trickle down. And this is why the NCAA is a joke. They need to put these rules in. They're going to drag their feet until they get dragged into every every courtroom in the country, and every district judge is going to make a different ruling. And it's just going to be ridiculous going forward. And I don't know what the end game is, Jill.
This is just an absolute dumpster fire. This is the consequences of the NCAA not putting in rules in place earlier because they didn't want to deal with it. And now it's catching up to them, and we're seeing the trickle-down effect, and there just needs to be, this is what's allowed, this is what is not allowed, and end of day. it's just not clear. We all cover sports for a living, and I don't know about you guys, I'm confused. So it just doesn't make any sense.
I'm also confused.
I'm not a lawyer. So, but on that note, we got to hit a quick break here.
Back here on Palmetto Sports Daily, and maybe the biggest college football story in the country from yesterday came from the University of Akron, who have a promotion running where it says if you buy a season ticket for Akron football games this year, you're going to be entered into a drawing. And if you're selected to be the winner, you're going to be able to call the first drive for every play on their opening drive of the season opener against Robert Morris. This is an incredible opportunity for someone to go in and finally put their Madden skills to use. Jill, open it up with you. Your thoughts on this?
I mean, this is just getting people to buy more season tickets. That's my only thoughts. Like, that is all that this is. Otherwise, there's no other reason for it.
Well, see, here's the thing, which I find this, this could be very unlikely, but like, what if you get a bunch of Robert Morris fans, which is who Akron's playing in week 1, who are like, yeah, you know what? We're going to go out and we're going to buy season tickets, and then we're going to try to just completely sabotage this first drive if we get selected, which I know it's random and the chances of that happening are unlikely, and a Robert Morris fan buying Akron season tickets is also ridiculous. However, what if you have that? Or you get somebody who has no idea what's going on in the game of football, or you get like a 6-year-old who's like, yeah, like let me get in there. Like I don't know. I mean, it's insane. However, they also, Akron lost 10-0 in their season opener last year, so the bar's on the floor, I guess.
It's definitely on the floor. And even better, what if you're a gambling guy and you bet the under and you just have them run right up the middle every time for
and
that
then they
first
ruin
drive.
it.
By the way, I'd have them run the annexation of Puerto Rico 8 times in a row on that first drive. That's going to do it for Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll see you back here tomorrow.